What's up YouTube, it's your boy Nash here, welcome back to the channel, and today I have an updated Harpie Lady deck profile for you guys. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done an update on the deck. I didn't really do a whole lot to the main deck. I did, however, do a little bit with the extra deck and the side deck, just a little bit, just because of the fact that this deck really doesn't need to be updated all that much. Maybe just take out a couple of the bricks, throw in throw in some draw cards or whatever, and the deck would still be just as powerful as it would be with the original version. So this one actually no longer utilizes one of Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast, and the original. It actually uses up two because of the fact that it acts as a Cyber Dragon, which is pretty insane. So with that, if you were to pair it off with the normal summon of Harpie Channeler, you have a rank 7 right off the bat. So I did do a couple of modifications to the extra deck and the side deck. It's a bit different from before, but the deck is pretty fire. So hopefully you guys are ready for this video. If you guys are, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all of my social media. Links will be in the description below, which will include my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram, so make sure you guys are following me there. Link will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. If you guys have any fan mail that you guys want to send me, the info will be in the description below. Let's get straight into it, guys. Kicking things off, obviously, 3 copies of Harpie Lady. This is basically the bread and butter of the whole deck. If you're not playing this card, you're not playing Harpies. That's just how it works. Not much else to say about that. Funny thing though is, because they've got the Cyber Slash Harpie Lady, each of the Harpie cards count as a tuner. So you don't even need tuners to summon Cyber Slash Harpie Lady, which is pretty fucking fire, I have to admit. Then, of course, we are running 2 copies of Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast. Its effect reads: monsters cannot target level 6 or lower Harpie monsters for attacks. You can only use you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If you control a level 6 or lower wind monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense. If this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can send one winged beast monster from your deck to the graveyard. So it basically acts as it's basically Cyber Dragon, Foolish Burial, and a Gravity Bind, all rolled into one singular dragon, which is pretty cool. Because but the thing is that you're not going to be using Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast, for its Foolish Burial effect. You're going to be using it as fodder to go into your rank 7s, which could be one of two, either number 89 or number 11, which both of those cards are absolutely insanely broken. So not much else to say about that. But what's I swear, my mom's dog Thor needs to learn how to shut up while I'm working. I guess not. Anyway, where was I? Oh, right. Anyway, what's also cool about Fearsome Fire Blast is that if you were to use it as if you were to use it as fodder to go into any of your link plays, if you have any at your disposal, you would be able to actually trigger the trigger off the Foolish Burial effect, and you can easily send any of your Harpie cards to your graveyard, which will give you fodder for Harpie's Feather Rest, which basically gives you a pot of greed, which is pretty fire. Next up we have a single copy of Harpie Queen. This is basically your terraforming to get out the Harpie's hunting ground. Basically, all you do is just send this card from your hand to your graveyard, and you basically get Harpie's hunting ground to your hand. The only problem with Harpie's hunting ground is that its MST effect is a mandatory effect. It's with priority. So if hunting ground is the only background that's on the board, guess what? Hunting ground gets destroyed. There's not much you can do about it. So that's why I'm only running one Harpie Queen and one hunting ground. It's because of that fact. Because I really don't want to see hunting ground in my opening hand. But if it does get added into my opening hand, then I'm gonna end up having no choice but to go second. Because truth be told, this deck can do a couple things going first, but it can do quite a bit going second, which is pretty cool. Now we move on to the rest of the Harpie. Next up we got 3 copies of Harpie Harpist. So obviously, other than Harpie Queen, other than Harpie Queen, each of the rest of the Harpies has the same first effect that reads this card's name becomes Harpie Lady while on the field or in the grave. However, Harpist has different effects compared to everyone else. Her effect, she has 2 different effects. The first one reads, when this card is normal summon, you can target one of the wing-based monsters you control, and a face-up monster your opponent controls, return them to the hand. So it basically acts as a double compose, which is pretty cool. The second effect reads, during the end phase, if this card is in the grave because it was sent out this turn, you can add a level 4 wing-based monster from your deck to your hand that with 1500 or less attack. Basically you can add Harpie Lady, you can add Harpie Perfumer, or you can add Harpie Oracle to your hand, which is pretty cool. And so basically this is basically your Stratos for the whole deck, which is pretty cool. Next up we've got 3 copies of Harpie Perfumer. Perfumer is a bit of an odd one, but it's actually pretty good because the effect reads, if this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 spell trap from your deck to your hand that lists the card Harpie Lady Sisters in its text. While you control a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, if you controlled a level 5 or higher Harpie monster when you activate this effect, you can add a second such card. So you can basically add cards such as Elegant Egotist, Hysteric Party, or even also Harpie's Feather Rest can be added to your hand off of the effects of your Harpie Perfumer. And it's as I said before, excuse me. And it's, as I said before, it's pretty easy to make 3 monsters on board, which can help you go into cards such as your number 104. It can help you go into your Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, or even also another rank 4 that actually is pretty fucking good in this deck, I have to admit. But we will get to the extra deck here in a little bit. So basically Perfumer is basically your spell and trap Rhoda, which is really awesome, and Harpie Harpist is basically your Stratos, which is pretty awesome as well. Next up we've got 3 copies of Harpie Channeler. This card is just a house. So basically what the card does is when it's summoned, you get to discard one Harpie card from your hand to summon out any Harpie monster from your deck in defense except itself. But what's cool about this is that you can summon Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast, and Channeler's level will become 7, which will give you access to summon either number 89 or number 11 right off the bat, which is pretty nuts. So basically you normal summon Channeler, activate its effect, pitch, let's say the Harpie Oracle, special summon the Fearsome Fire Blast, activate Elegant Egotist, summon out one of your Harpie ladies, activate Monster Reborn, resummon the Harpie Oracle, and not only would you have number 89 or number 11 on board, but with Oracle and Harpie Lady on board, you can either go into the Cyber / Harpie Lady, you can go into your Time Thief Redoer, or you can go into your Lightning Shidori, which Shidori is pretty decent, but it does have a slight drawback, which I will get to that in a little bit. So a nice little play there, pretty cool. And then to round up the Harpie monsters, we got 2 copies of Harpie Oracle. This card is actually pretty decent. So its effect reads that if you control a level 5 or higher Harpie monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So if you have Fearsome Fire Blast on board, you basically get to special summon Oracle from your hand, which is really awesome. So you basically have another Cyber Dragon, I guess you could say. And then the other effect reads, if this card is normal special summon, you can add a spell or trap from your grave to your hand that lists Harpie Lady Sisters in its text. So if you have Elegant Egotist in your graveyard, you can just add it back to your hand, activate it, and then just summon out Harpie Lady, go into a rank 4 play, which is really awesome. And then to round up the monster lineup, we've got 3 Barrier Statue of the Stormwind and 2 Ash Blossom. Stormwind, the Wind Barrier Statue, it's just a fucking house. If your opponent doesn't have an out to it, you essentially just win. It's essentially GG. That's all there is to it. And then Ash Blossom is a nice little disruption. Not much else to say about that. Moving on into the spells for the one-ofs. For the one-ofs in the deck, we've got there we go. Anyway, for the one-ofs in the deck, we got the 1 Harpie's Feather Duster. We got the Rank Up Magic Numeron Force because of the fact that we got the number 104 Masquerade. We can easily use Numeron Force to go into Chaos number 104, Umbral Horror Masquerade, and basically it becomes a Dark Ruler no more, which is pretty fucking nuts. As long as Umbral Horror Masquerade is the only monster you have on board, Numeron Force is going to will very may well just dominate the entire board, and you essentially just have game right off the bat from there, which is pretty cool. We got the Monster Reborn because obviously it's Monster Reborn. The one Called By, I still don't understand why Called By is at 1. I still don't get it. Honestly, I don't. I just don't fucking get it. Why it's at 1, I've got no fucking clue. But if it comes back up to 2, I can totally understand it. But really, at 1, I wouldn't be surprised if the next ban was Konami banned it. I would not be. Actually, you know what? I would be, because Called By is basically one of the biggest outs to a card, like to pretty much any hand trap that your opponent may have at their disposal, which could be Ash Blossom, it could be Nibiru, whatever. That I just don't know. I don't know. There are other outs to hand traps, but nobody plays them anymore. And those cards are Mind Drain and Soul Drain. Because truth be told, those cards are absolutely pretty fucking nuts. Because Mind Drain focuses on monster effects in the hand. Soul Drain focuses on monster effects that are in the graveyard and that are banished. And of course, Skill Drain obviously focuses on monsters on monster effects that are on board. So don't know why it's at 1, but it is what it is. Next up, we've got the Alluring Mirror Split. This card, excuse me. This card is a pretty interesting card. So the effect reads, when a Harpie Lady or Harpie Lady Sisters you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon one Harpie monster from your deck with a different original name than the destroyed monster. If this card you control is destroyed by a Harpie card's effect, or your opponent's card effect, target one Harpie monster in your grave and special summon it. So basically, it basically just gives you access to throw down another body from your deck. But if this card were to be destroyed by the effects of a card like, say, Harpie's Hunting Ground, or by one of your opponent's card effects, it basically acts as a second Monster Reborn, which is pretty nice. And then, of course, too, we got the Harpie's Hunting Ground, which basically is a MST, which funny enough, this could be used in mirror matches, because if either you or your opponent were to summon a Harpie Lady or a Harpie Lady Sisters, it literally works both ways, which is pretty hilarious. Then, of course, for our draw cards, we've got the 3 Harpies Feather Rest and the 2 Wing Requital. I'm gonna be honest. Wing Requital is a pretty nasty card. Basically, you just pay 600 life points, draw 2 cards. Only if all the monsters you have on board are winged beasts, and you have two of them with different original names, you get to draw 2 cards. Feather Rest is basically Pot of Avarice, but what's cool about this is that if you have, let's say your Harpie's Pet Dragon, Fearsome Fire Blast, or your Cyber / Harpie Lady, then it basically acts as a Pot of Avarice. But if you don't have either one, then you only get to draw 1 card, which is probably one of the biggest drawbacks in the deck, but it's still pretty nasty on its own. And then to round up the spells, we got the three Elegant Egotists to summon out your Harpie Lady, and then of course too we got the 2 copies of Hysteric Sign. Hysteric Sign, pretty crazy. It does give you access to your elegant Egotist, and you know what? Looking at this card, I realized that you don't really need 2. What does the effect say? When this card is activated, add 1 elegant Egotist from your deck or grave to your hand. During the end phase, this card is in the grave because it was sent there from the hand or field this turn. Add up to 3 Harpie cards with different names from your deck to your hand. You know what? I just realized I don't think I need 2. So 2 copies in the main. So what I'm gonna do is this. I actually originally had Ice Beast Zero Fine in the side deck, but because that you really don't want to go into the side deck all that much, I'm actually going to take it out and throw in the Pot of Avarice and put it into the main and put the second Hysteric Sign into the side. And the reason being is because of the fact that you're going to be using your Elegant Egotist quite a bit. Harpie Lady is going to end up in the graveyard. So so cards like Pot of Avarice will be yet another way you can take Harpie Lady and put it back into the deck, and not just the Harpie's Feather Rest. So basically, it basically acts as if you have 4 copies of Pot of Avarice, which is pretty cool. And now for the traps to round up the entire deck, the entire main deck itself, we got the 3 Harpie's Feather Storm, which is a pretty nasty card. This is basically another version of Numeron Force, where it acts as a Dark Ruler no more, but only for face-up monsters that your opponent may have at their disposal, which is pretty crazy. We have 2 copies of Crackdown. Originally, I was running 3. I decided to cut down. I cut it down to 2 because I needed to make room for I needed to make some room for the 2 Ash Blossoms. So that's why I decided to cut it down to 2. But truth be told, it's still a pretty nasty floodgate, especially if you want to go into any of your rank 4s that require more than 2 monsters. That's pretty. It's a pretty nasty floodgate, to be honest. And then to round up the main deck, we got the 2 copies of Hysteric Party, which basically acts as a soul charge, but in a continuous trap. And the best part is that the cost is discarding 1 card. You don't pay increments of 1,000 per monster, basically, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty much it for the main deck. The extra deck is pretty fucking nasty. So first up, we got 3 copies of Cyber Slash Harpie Lady. Obviously, if you got all 3 on board, you basically have 3 2600 beat sticks on board, and this could just easily help you win games. Because if a spell were to be activated, or pretty much any card effect, spell, trap, monster effect, were to be activated, you basically get to compulse a monster that either you have or a monster that your opponent may have, and just compulse it back to the hand. If you were to compulse, let's say for example, your opponent were to activate a card like, say, Dark Hole, you can actually chain the Cyber Slash Harpie Lady, and if she's the only one on board, you can just compulse it back into your extra deck, and then just activate the Hysteric Party, pitch let's say Harpie Lady, spam your board with a bunch of your Harpie Ladies, and next turn, guess what? You get to resummon the Cyber Slash Harpie Lady and just combo off from there, which is pretty fucking nuts. We got obviously Zeus because of the fact that we are running the 2 copies of Time Thief Redoer. We've got the number 89 Diablosis the Mind Hacker, and of course Big Eye, number 11 Big Eye. Number 89 is basically a force auto win, basically. So if you guys have never seen this card before, or never watched any of my previous deck profiles that actually run this card, it's a rank 7 Dark Psychic Exceeds with 2800 attack, 1200 defense, and requires 2 level 7 monsters, which is pretty easy. To make off of the effects of Harpie Channeler, because as I said before, you basically get to normal summon your Harpie Channeler, trigger its effect, send Harpie Lady to your graveyard, summon out the Fearsome Fire Blast, and overlay them into number 89 or number 11. And number 89's effect reads, once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, look at your opponent's extra deck, and banish 1 monster from it face down. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle, you can target a card in your opponent's grave and banish it face down. If a card your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down, while you control this card except during the damage step, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down equal to the face down banished cards. can only use this effect once per turn. This is basically a way to force deck out your opponent and just auto win easily. If your opponent doesn't have an out to number 89, you win. You basically just win the entire duel on its own, which is pretty cool. Then of course we got number 11 Big Eye, which basically acts as a double snatch steal, which is pretty hilarious. We got the number 104 Masquerade. This card basically basically just mills your opponent's deck each turn. So if you guys have never seen this card before, I believe this was released in Judgment of the Light, if I remember correctly. So its effect reads: during either player's battle phase, when an opponent's monster effect is activated, you can detach one material from his card, negate the activation, and inflict 800 damage to your opponent. Once per turn, you can send the top card of your opponent's deck to the graveyard. So it basically just again mills during each turn, which is pretty insane. Then of course we got the Chaos number 104 Umbral Horror Masquerade. Its effect reads: when this card is special summoned, you can target one spell or trap on the field, destroy it. So basically it's an MST, which is pretty nuts. And then if it has number 104 Masquerade as the material, it gains the effect where it reads once per turn during either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field, detach one material from this card, negate the activation, and send a random card from your opponent's hand to the grave, and if you do, half your opponent's life points. Basically, this is yet another one of your another win con where you can just easily cut your opponent's life points in half and just attack for game. Just attack per game, especially if you have a board that consists of, let's say number 89 Cyber / Harpie Lady, Chaos 104, and let's say the Lightning Shidori. You basically should just have game on board, which is pretty insane. Speaking of Redoer, we've got the 2 copies of Time Thief Redoer, which is just an absolute house. The more materials it gains, the more board wipes you will have for Zeus, and you can just attack for game right off the bat. Then of course we have the Harpie's Pet Phantasmal Dragon, which this card can attack directly, but it can only work if this card has materials. And the last effect reads: during each of your end phases, detach one material from this card, which is a bit of a downside, but what's cool about this but the question is, do you really go into Phantasmal Dragon all that much? No, honestly you don't. You only go into it if you're short on lethal during the battle phase, or sorry, before the battle phase. You can easily summon out three monsters off of the effects of, say, your Hysteric Party, overlay them into the Phantasmal Dragon, and that is when you know you will have game on board, which is pretty nuts. Then of course we got the new addition to the deck. It is probably the weirdest card in the deck, but it works. It is known as Vylon de Sigma. If you guys have never seen this card before, it is a rank 4 Light Fairy Exceeds with 2500 attack, 2100 defense, basically the same stats as Dark Magician, which is pretty crazy. I think. Is it? Yeah, literally 2500, 2100. Yeah, literally the same attack and defense stats as Dark Magician, and requires 3 level 4 monsters, which is easy to make with this deck. So its effect reads: once per turn, you can detach one material from this card to target a face-up attack position effect monster your board controls. Equip that target to this card. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster, destroy that monster. This monster must be equipped with a monster with the same attribute as the monster it is battling to activate and resolve this effect. So the biggest drawback with this is the fact that is the fact that if you're going up against a deck like, say, just as a random example, let's say Dark Magician. The problem with Dark Magician is that you're running cards, not just Dark Magician, not just Dark Magician Girl, but also cards such as Palladium, Oracle, Mahad, Mana, which I think are both light attributes. So you would need to go. This deck would need to go up against a deck that has all one attribute, which could be Light Sworns, Cyber Dragon. Let's see, Cyber Dragon, Sharks, if you will. Battling Boxers would be another good prime example. So this is basically Thousand Eyes Restrict, Ally of Justice, Catastor, all rolled into one 2500 beat stick, which is pretty crazy. And then to round up the Xyz monsters, we got the Lightning Shidori, which basically is a Compulse, which is pretty nuts. And then we got some Link monsters, which are both Tri-Brigade monsters, but it works with this deck. They are known as Tri-Brigade Shurag, the Ominous Omen, and Tri-Brigade Farigent, the Barren Blossom. Shurag's effect reads if this card is special summon, or if another beast warrior, or winged beast monster is special summoned to your field, you can banish one card on the field. If this card is sent to the grave, you can add a beast warrior, or winged beast monster from your deck to your hand, whose level is less than or equal to the number of your banished beast warrior, and winged beast monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. So if you were to pair this off with let's say Diablosis, the Mind Hacker, guess what? You're gonna have probably one of the biggest floodgates. Probably one of the best floodgates you could ever think of, which is pretty nuts. Now, Farigent's effect reads: during your main phase, you can special summon a level 4 or lower winged beast warrior, or winged beast monster from your hand, and you cannot use monsters as link material for the rest of the turn except for beast warrior, or winged beast monsters. If this card is sent to the grave, you can draw one card, then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is basically Saryuja, but a little bit different, because what I mean by that is Saryuja has a special summon effect where you can just special summon a monster from your hand to a zone that Saryuja points to, where as opposed to this, you can just summon any 4-star monster from your hand, combo it off, pair it off with, let's say the Fearsome Fire Blast, and if Channeler were to be one of the cards that you summon, guess what? You can go into number 89, and if you have Shurag on board, you're gonna have quite the powerful board on your hands, which is pretty insane. So that's pretty much it for the extra deck. The side deck is a bit different from before, but most of it is pretty much the same. We have 2 copies of Gadara, the Mystery Dust Kaiju. Excuse me, to go up against the basically to go up against the what you call it? I'm trying to think. The Fluendaris decks, pretty much any deck that does decide to run the Wind Barrier statue, Gadara is probably your best out. Is one of your best outs, and it's a pretty nasty card, to be honest. We got two Ghost Spell, 2 Ghost Ogre. We've got the second Hysteric Sign, as I mentioned earlier, 2 Cosmic Cyclone. Just for a little extra back row removal, which is pretty awesome. We have 2 copies of Zing Zang Hu, a bit of an old school card, but the card is actually pretty fucking nuts. I know it's a bit old school, but you want to you basically want to activate this card during your opponent's end phase, because if they set 2, guess what? You can flip up Zing Zing Hoo, target those 2 set monsters, and guess what? If you hard draw, if you top deck Harpie's Feather Duster, you get to wipe out their board, go and then just summon freely, and then go into number 104, and if number 104 is the only card you have on board, activate number 104s, go into Masquerade, and you pretty much just have game right there. And then to round up the side deck, we got 2 Solemn Strike and 2 Solemn Warning. So all in all, this deck is actually pretty fire. It's a bit different from before, but I love this deck. This was something that I had always wanted to work on for quite a while, and when I first started to build the deck, it actually became pretty good. Now it's even better than it was before. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, turn on the notification bell, follow me on all of my social media. Links will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.